The state defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
You may proceed.
May it please the court.
Yes.
Opposing counsel. Members of the jury. No, no. Those were the last noises that the neighbor heard from Barry Schmalbach's apartment before Barry was never seen or heard from again. Now, members of the jury, you have been here since Monday, and you have seen the state's evidence, and you have seen the state present to you. I apologize, I'm going to sound noise, y'all can see. You have seen the state present to you a multitude of evidence, including photos, videos, audio statements. And the reason we did that is because this isn't a simple and check case. We don't have a body in this case. What we do have is the defendant, and the defendant being the last person who saw Barry Schmalbach alive. The last person who was with him when he said, no, no. And then the actions of the defendant after the 19th, buying duct tape, a tarp, a pickaxe, a shovel, renting an Airbnb out in Montura, which is in Clewiston, disposing of the pickaxe and shovel, a neighbor seeing Barry's wallet, and the wallet then being found in a storm drain a few days later. And then cadaver dogs actually alerting to the smell of human remains in the back of Barry's Jeep. As you're aware, this is Barry Schmalbach. He was born on October 15th, 1966, and his day of death, July 19th, 2023, by the hands of the defendant, Christopher Davis. Now, members of the jury, you are going to see, what you have heard today is that there was no data usage on Barry's phone. Now, this case involves subpoenas that were done to a multitude of agencies, whether it be AT&T, whether it be Cellbrite, search warrants. There is a lot of evidence in this case. And you'll actually get to take that evidence back with you, most of it. Some of it you do have to come out here because there's a computer, but for the most part, you get to take it back with you. And what it is you actually get to see stage by stage by stage what happens at the beginning, before the defendant kills the victim, as well as what the defendant's actions are after he killed the victim, including getting Botox over someone he was just so worried about. There's no data usage on Barry's phone after 9:32 p.m. The last call out from Barry's phone, 8:20, 8:21. The last time Barry is seen alive is on that video from Brecker's Jewelers, 8:29 p.m., July 19th, 2023. The last text out from Barry's phone at 8:30. Now, members of the jury, you heard a voicemail that Barry left for Miguel Blanco.
Yes. Hey, it's me. Give me a call. I need your help. I need to get rid of this fucking idiot. Because I can't take it anymore.
Members of the jury, the state would submit that this call was made to Miguel as he was walking home. A call that the defendant must have heard. A call that the defendant took his actions into his own hands and took Barry's life. The defendant has been charged with these 3 different charges. The state has been able to prove them to you beyond a reasonable doubt. The state has been able to prove second-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, as well as fraudulent use or possession with intent to fraudulently use personal identification information of a deceased individual. That sounds like a bunch of words, but it really is using someone's credit card or personal information that is now deceased without their permission. And the state gave you a puzzle, and we put the pieces of the puzzle together. And when we put the pieces of the puzzle together, you got the defendant. Now, at the end of the judge is reading you jury instructions, he is going to give you what is known as a verdict form. this is what the verdict form is going to look like. It is going to have the charges, it's going to have guilty, not guilty. And the state would submit to you that we proved the charges of second-degree murder, and we'd ask you to find him guilty. We proved the charges of guilty of tampering with physical evidence. You've seen the axe that he tried to throw away at Ace Hardware. You saw the shovel that he tried to throw away at Ace Hardware. And members of the jury, you heard from Becky Weber that she saw the victim's wallet in his condo. And where was the wallet a few days later? In a storm drain. That is disposal of the evidence. That is tampering with evidence. And we have 8 counts of using Barry's information without his permission or his credit card. Members, that's why you saw so many credit card statements and so much to do with regards to these credit cards. We have the defendant calling every single card number that is in Barry's wallet. And we have him using the card at Target, Publix. He calls PNC Bank, and at the PNC Bank call, which he tried to disguise himself as being Barry, but you heard from him as well as Miguel, that's not Barry's voice. That's the defendant's voice, especially when he got excited that he actually got access to it. You also saw him use the card at Starbucks multiple times, Walmart, Seacoast Bank. There's actually a really good picture of him that you see with him actually trying to get money out of the ATM machine. Home Depot and Aunt Teresa Aesthetic Medicine for fillers. Now, again, this is a lot of words for basically saying that he did not have Barry's permission to use his credit card or identification information to access his financial records, to talk about his mother's maiden name, social security number, information he did not have permission to have. So we have to prove 2 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. That Mr. Davis willfully and fraudulently used or possessed with the intent to fraudulently use personal identification information concerning Barry Schmalbach, as well at the time Barry Schmalbach was a deceased individual. We've got different definitions that are going to be given to you as well. So willfully is the first one. Intentionally, knowingly, and purposely. He used the cards. He called the banking institutions. Those were the actions of the defendant. Fraudulently means purposely or intentionally suppressing the truth or perpetrating a deception or both. Well, let's see. He bought a duct tape. He bought a tarp. He rented a Airbnb in a rural area after searching for rural areas after his boyfriend went missing, after the noises in the condo were heard. He is fraudulently using this information. Barry is dead. Personal identification information. Basically, this can be social security number, credit card, bank account. There's a variety of different things it can be. Humorously enough, it says mother's maiden name. We've heard that on the PNC Bank call. Or even possessing it. Guess what? Having it in your handy little wallet, that's possession. And having control. So we have to prove that he knew of the existence of the personal identification information and intentionally exercised control over that personal identification information. Well, what's interesting is one of the cards that he ends up using, the PNC Bank card that he actually gets access to, the state would submit to you after he gets access to it, he puts it back in Barry's wallet because it's found in Barry's wallet in a storm drain. You can see at the very beginning when he is at Walmart, that wallet of the defendant is predominantly empty. By the end of it, at the search warrant on July 24th, he's got a multitude of Barry's credit cards in there. How did he get Barry's credit cards? Because he took them without his permission after he killed Barry. mother's maiden name, access device, social security number, credit card, or debit card number. That's personal identification information. And we have that over and over again in this case. At 8 different places. Tampering with physical evidence. This is where the state has to prove 2 elements to you. That Christopher Davis knew that an investigation by a duly constituted prosecuting authority or law enforcement agency of the state was pending or about to be instituted. Okay. Well, when you get called,
Yes.
and I apologize. May I proceed?
Okay.
By a duly constituted prosecuting authority or law enforcement agency of this state was pending or about to be instituted. Well, a missing persons report was going to be pending when Miguel Blanco said, okay, you need to file one. We haven't heard from Barry. Or alternatively, I'm going to file one. Guess what? Miguel already did, or he was going to. That is a pending investigation. Ultimately, it turned into a homicide investigation, but it was still pending. Now, after he does a missing persons investigation report, and Miguel does one as well, then it becomes about to be instituted. Because guess what? It's going from a missing persons to a homicide investigation in this case. That Christopher Davis altered, destroyed, concealed, or removed any record, document, or other item with the purpose to impair its veracity or availability in the investigation or proceeding. Technical difficulties, I apologize. So, we see in this particular frame Mr. Davis with the shovel and the pickaxe in Clewiston, where he purchases it with cash. We see him at Ace Hardware at the very back near the dumpster, taking the shovel and the pickaxe and throwing them in the dumpster. And when he gets caught by Carl Hewitt, what does he do? He leaves the pickaxe next to the dumpster. This is tampering with evidence. He was trying to get away with hiding where he put Barry's body. Tampering with evidence. He left behind the pickaxe, so law enforcement couldn't find it. A pickaxe that was bought at an Ace, so let's just put it back at an Ace. No one will think anything of it. Within 25 hours of purchasing it. And then once it's instituted, Becky Weber sees that wallet. She knows it's Barry's wallet. Where does it end up? A storm drain. That happens to be on the walk that the defendant and the victim take together on Beach Parkway. Now, to prove the charge of second degree murder, the state has to prove to you 3 elements. That Barry is dead. We hit this in jury selection, as always. We talked about this in opening, but we talked about it through all of our witnesses. We don't have a body in this case. What we have is every piece of the puzzle of the Statue of Liberty. We're not missing the flame. We have the entire picture for you. Barry is dead, and he's dead because of the actions of the defendant when the defendant killed him and then took every step possible to hide the evidence and to get rid of the body. The death was caused by a criminal act of Christopher Davis. There was an unlawful killing of Barry Schmalbach by an act imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for human life. And the act is actually defined. It includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. Purpose is hiding the evidence, getting rid of the body. Purpose is to do what he wants to do because he knew Barry was going to leave. An act imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind. If an act or a series of acts that, 1, a person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily injury to another. Slamming him around. No. And the whimpering. He killed Barry that night in the condo. And that's exactly what his neighbor heard. It's done from ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent. Well, let's see. We have text messages that say, I'm tired of his BS. We have a voicemail. I need to get rid of this fucking idiot. He knew he was going to get broken up with. Barry had warned him. Stop the drama. Your insecurities are going to be the end of us. And the defendant, by his own words, told Becky Weber, I think he's going to leave me. I'm not going to have anywhere to live. Barry's demise was the defendant, and the defendant's insecurities, and the defendant's ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent. And I apologize, I clicked one. And is of such a nature that the act itself indicates an indifference to human life. Well, he gets slammed around, then we hear no, and then we hear whimpering. At no point does the defendant call 911. At no point does the defendant report Barry missing until 5 days later. It's okay though, because he went to sleep because he had drank too much when he got home that night from the bar, and he woke up at 4 a.m. and Barry was gone. That's not what his digital footprint shows, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. So our timeline. The best way the state could present this case to you was by day by day. And the reason we did that is because of the multitude of evidence in this case. Because there's a digital footprint. There is a physical view of the defendant over and over again, searching places, going to places, buying and doing things to hide what he's doing. And members of the jury, we start on July 19th. And on July 19th, we find out that the defendant and the victim went to Cruisers, that there was an argument, that there was slamming around, no's and whimpering. There was a Jeep chirp 5 to 10 minutes after the neighbor heard this whimpering. There was a ping of the victim's cell phone, the last time being in a 5,000 meter location of the condo at 8:41. And there was the defendant going to Walmart at almost 10 o'clock at night and buying 2 rolls of duct tape, a tarp, and a bottle of chocolate milk. And what we did is we used Detective Behrman as the narrator. And on that particular day, you heard from the neighbor Ruth. You actually heard from a lot of neighbors. You heard from a lot of family and friends. And guess what they all said? Barry would never not respond. The only person that ever said Barry didn't respond is the defendant. And we already know that based on the cell phone records that we have and the digital download of his phone, that's not accurate. You see the back and forth conversations between Barry and the defendant. It's just not what the defendant wanted to hear. Barry was meticulous. He was kind. He was loving. He was clean. Nothing was out of mess. Heck, Hurricane Ian destroyed the area, and Barry's concern was cleaning the outside of his car. That's how meticulous he was. His job in that Jeep were his life. He loved his friends and family. He kept in constant communication with them, calling and texting, telling them, hey, I'm going here, I'm going there. Even if he's in another country, he's still responding to a friend of over 40 years. He had family members in the area that he would have a weekly date with, basically, because he's an elderly man. And none of those friends or family have heard or seen from Barry since July 19th, 2023. You heard from the bartender as well as a friend that were at Cruisers that there seemed to be an argument. Barry left, the two parties left separately, and Chris chased Barry out of Cruisers. You heard from Rosalie that she had gotten that I'm tired of the BS text. You heard from Miguel. He had gotten that voicemail that you heard. And the funny thing about Miguel is, members of the jury, I told you at the very beginning during our opening statements that Miguel is going to say over and over and over and over again, that's Christopher Davis, that's Christopher Davis, that's Christopher Davis, that's Christopher Davis's voice. And Barry is only seen in 3 of those videos. And it's the 3 before the defendant killed him on the walk back from Cruiser's Bar on July 19th, 2023. So we have the defendant and the victim's condo. We have Cruisers, which we know they go to. We know that at some point they pay and leave. We have the receipt and evidence. You guys will have the ability to take back the evidence with you and actually look at it and go through it if you wish. We see that Barry's the one that actually made the purchase, and he used his Amex card. So we know Barry had his American Express card on him when he paid, because he paid without Chris around, because Chris was in the back room. Barry left without Chris around, so Barry took the card. How do we know Barry took the card? Well, it's found on Chris's possession on the 24th, after he killed Barry and tossed the wallet. He didn't toss that card, but he sure as heck tossed the PNC card that he also used. We have the fact that they're walking by Budget Blinds. We have the fact that they're walking by Monarcas. And we have the last known sighting at Greatbur's Jewelers. That's the last time Barry's seen alive. 8:29 p.m. Now, we talked to his friend of 40 years, Rosalie, and she told us that she talked to Barry all the time. She texted him, called him. They've been friends for 40 years. They've even gone on a cruise together, and Barry has never once given her his credit card. They actually used hers when they went on the cruise years ago. That's how long they've been friends. Barry's had that same number for as long as she can remember. Heck, as long as anybody can remember. But that becomes interesting because at some point, Barry doesn't remember his cell phone card. Sorry, his cell phone number. So the text messages we see from Rosalie, remember she's an hour behind us, so we have to change it from Mountain Standard Time to Eastern Standard Time. And we see that on July 19th at 7:06 p.m., she texts him. Barry responds at 7:06 immediately. I am at the bar with my BF, but I am so done with the BS. Please call me tomorrow. Space, period, space. I miss you so much. Space, period, space. Okay, will do. Love you. Hang in there. And then she gets an impromptu response that was not elicited. It's okay, I love him, period. And okay is spelled differently than the okay at the very top. And that comes into play because when you look at states composites 40A and 40, you're going to see Barry only responding with okay as OKAY, and Chris responding with okay as okay. It is a pattern. It is how people text. It is how Barry texted. Space, period, space. OKAY. Okay. Space, period, space. And then Chris responding back with the word, period, space. Not the same as Barry. You can go through those text messages. When Barry doesn't have a punctuation, it's a run-on sentence. Or when he does, space, period, space. Also, Barry doesn't use commas. Chris does. And something he never would have told Rosalie, but maybe he'll tell other people, is that he loved him and he'd had a few. That's not something he would have told Rosalie. That may have been something he would have told his cousin, but not Rosalie. You're also going to be able to look at a variety of messages that the state brought in 40A and 40. There's a message back in June 15th, 2023. It's from Barry. I have bent over backwards for you and you cause drama. Space, period, space. I want drama free. If you can't do that, then it's over. Space, period, space. I love you, but I am not in this for your drama. And we see Chris's response. I love you more than anything in this world, comma. And it feels like you're ripping my heart out right now, comma. But you're not going to threaten to leave me anymore, Barry. I love you. So Barry had threatened to leave him in the past. And that night, on the 19th, he heard him tell Miguel, I'm done with this fucking idiot. Barry responds. And remember, you can see Barry's response times. It's within a minute. Because Barry did that. Barry responded instantaneously. If not, it was the same day. It was not almost 2 years, which is what it is now. Nobody has seen Barry. No one has heard from Barry. No one has talked to Barry. No one has texted Barry. Because Barry is dead. And then we see also some more text messages. This one's from Barry. Again, about Chris's drama. Again, space, period, space. Stop the drama and we can be happy, but right now I am done. We see Chris's response. We see Barry's response. I did not break up. I do not want drama. There's no comma because it's run-on sentences. You can look at the identity of how somebody responds to you to know who it is. I can't do this anymore. Either get on board or leave the ship. That is a text message Barry had sent to the defendant. Again, run-on sentence, not proper punctuation. We continue. Again, space, period, space. Space, period, space. And then we have Chris using commas, proper punctuation. Then we go back to Barry, space, period, space. Over and over again. Now, members of the jury, I'm going to direct your attention to the June 15th, 2023 text message at 7:24 p.m. It's from Mr. Davis. I love you more anything in this world, and it feels like you're ripping my heart out right now, but you're not going to threaten to leave me anymore, Barry. I love you. Barry was leaving him, members of the jury. And then we see again, okay and okay. We see the different spelling. Over and over again. Then we see a text conversation, and what we did was we put Christopher in red and Barry in green, except for obviously the bottom text message, which is an excerpt from the 40A and 40 composite. And it's Christopher saying, if you block me, I will call you from a different number. What did we hear about from Jackie Fordham, the forensic tech, as well as Bryce Bierman, the detective, that the text message that was supposedly on this watch that talked about an Italian dinner, it was from a VIOP, which is a number that someone is using to spoof, to scam, to do something of that nature. It did not come from a known phone number. Baby, I'm telling you that I am sorry. I do not want to argue. I just want to speak to you. I want to go to bed, please. Baby, I'm in love with you and you're in love with me. I'm freaking out. I just want to hear your voice. Baby, you know I get emotional. I do not want drama. The only reason that there was drama is that you're not answering my phone calls and I don't understand why. Barry's response, he's visiting his cousins. I am with my cousins. Stop it. God damn it. Stop it. Barry, one more time and I will block you. If you block me, I'll call from a different number. The reasons why Chris was telling the officer, oh, he's done this before. He's gone to California and Wisconsin here, and he stops talking to me. No, he didn't stop talking to him. He had to tell him over and over and over again, stop it. I'm done with the drama. Stop it. I'm working. I'm with family. I am doing something. The defendant did not like those answers, though. So what does the defendant do? Within an hour of no, he searches Walmart near me. He gets in Barry's Jeep, chirp, chirp, and he goes into the Walmart parking lot in Del Prado Boulevard in Cape Coral at 9:38 p.m. But he's not there with anybody. He's by himself. We see him walking in the same clothes that he was wearing earlier that day. And we see him buying a tarp, a 12 by 24 foot heavy duty tarp, and we see his wallet. And it looks empty, members of the jury. We know what he bought too because of the receipt. Tape, tarp, bottle of chocolate milk. And guess how he paid? In cash. You'll notice a trend. He pays cash for the duct tape and tarp. He pays cash for the pickaxe and shovel. He pays cash for the dolly because there's not a trail as much of cash. But Big Brother's always watching, members of the jury, and that's what we have in this case, a video of him doing every single one of these actions. Duct tape tarp, 9:57 p.m. Supposedly when he's asleep because he's just so drunk. Now, the defendant does try to call Barry's phone. I want to say he calls between 16 and 17 times. And the funny thing is he stops calling Barry's phone once he reports Barry missing. He's so worried about Barry being missing that he stops trying to contact him. When the defendant calls Barry's cell, it starts at 10:19 p.m. It's routed to Barry's watch as a call forwarding not reachable. Then it sends the call to a different number when the device is not reachable, and it goes to a voicemail. When you look at the cell phone records of the victim or the defendant, it'll be the watch, it'll be the phone, it'll say forward, and it'll be the phone. It's because the two devices are bouncing off each other, and what happens is it goes to voicemail. This happens over and over again until Barry is reported missing on the 22nd. Now we move to Thursday. On Thursday, you heard from the narrator, Bryce, again. He's the best person to walk us through the timeline of the defendant's actions because he followed him. You hear from Cindy Thomas, who deals with Barry and Chris regularly, who states she asked Chris, where's Barry at? What was his response? He's working. It's different than what he told other people. You hear from the neighbor, Kimberly Zanzatali, as well as Miguel Blanco. You also hear from Brian Jobe that there's only 3 men in in the apartment complex or condo complex at that time. Him, Barry, and Chris. We have Starbucks working, we have him going to Lowe's, we have him buying a ham cart. We have him wearing Barry's watch, we have him going to Target, we have him going to Publix, and we have the PNC bank call. And guess what? We have the defendant using Barry's card over and over again at Starbucks. How do we know it's Barry's card? Well, Barry's name's on it, the defendant's not. We also know it's Barry's card because we have Barry's records over and over again. And guess what? Barry's nowhere to be seen because Barry's dead by the defendant's hands. Now, we see him at Lowe's, we see him with a hand cart he paid in cash for. Huh, maybe that won't be tracked. Then we see him go to Target. Oh, there he is wearing the watch. Barry's watch. Then we see him go to Target. And what does he do at Target? He made just 2 purchases. And when you look at it, they're small purchases. It's $1.50 and $2.56. Then he goes over to the ATM with Barry's information. Stands there for a while, doesn't pull anything out, and leaves. Then we go to Publix where we buy fried chicken and diet tea. Guess how we pay for that? With Barry's credit card. That's the 9617 card. Members of the jury, the next
Hi, my
glaring...
name is Melissa. Can I get your first and last name, please?
This is Barry Schmalbach.
Thank you. And how can I help you today?
I'm just adding my card to the phone.
Okay, we'll be happy to assist. Let's start by getting your social security number.
Yes, absolutely. 2526607.
And what is the last 4 digits of the card number you're... And is it for Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, or Google Pay?
Apple Pay.
And can you verify your address on file? Your mother's maiden name? What is your date of birth?
10/15/1966.
Thank you. The phone number you have on file?
Yes, it is 708-31. Hang on. Oh boy, I never remember my own phone number because it's just damn cell phone. I'm sorry. 708-341-0729. 341-0729.
Thank you. And the last piece of information I need is the 3-digit security code on the back of the card.
Absolutely. 49.
Thank you. Wow, that still didn't look like it's been acting. Oh. Okay, looks like it wants me to send you a text message. That number that you provided, is that a valid phone number or cell phone to get a text message at, or phone call?
Yes, that's a very phone number that I've been saying is I've been having a problem with my text messages. Is there any way I can call me?
Yeah, I can do, it should give me an option to do it as a phone call. That way you can put me on hold, grab that code, and then come back to me.
Okay.
Right, let me see. You said you wanted as a voice call. Okay, just hit that. You should be getting a phone call with a 5-digit passcode.
Two 6015.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Got you verified. Let's verify that card. All right, we got it verified. I do apologize it took so long. Anything else that we can help you with?
No, that is it, thank you. And it should be, so it'll be ready in the wallet now?
Yes.
Oh, it says ready already on this amazing, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too, bye.
Bye.
Now, we showed you the PNC bank records, that Barry's name is on the account and nobody else. And where is that card found? It's found after Becky Weber sees the wallet in the condo a few days later in a storm drain. And we know it's there because it's that blue PNC card. The blue PNC card that when you turn it over has a phone number on it, the same phone number he calls. Members of the jury, you also have to remember the searches that Chris did that night. What did he search for on the night and early morning of the 19th and 20th? Cell phone repair. Screen repair. The state would submit to you that the reason he had to do that was because the phone was broken, the screen. So he needed to get the call because he couldn't see the text. Now we move to Friday, July 21st. And about 4 a.m. that morning, we hear what happens when Brian Joe hears something. We see a picture of the defendant with Barry's Jeep getting gas. We see the defendant renting an Airbnb using his brother's name. We see the defendant going to Clewiston, buying a pickaxe and shovel. We hear from one of his friends, Tom Wilson. And again, members of the jury, his friends. He never would leave and not take his phone, his wallet, his identification, his passport. Tom and Barry have been friends for years. They worked together at Restaurant Depot. And Barry never gave him a card after having been friends for so many years. It's consistent. Family and friends, he never gave him a credit card. We also see the defendant going to Seacoast Bank and pulling money out. The reason we know that is we, one, have the video. Two, we have the credit card statement showing he did it. We see him going to Walmart and buying air fresheners, an air freshener that is found in the back of the Jeep after he tries to clean up. We hear about the apartment being in disarray because Miguel and Tom went in it when they saw the packages and hadn't heard from Barry. And they had the key because he had a medical condition. So let's start with Brian Joe. 4 a.m. in the morning, he hears something heavy being dragged in plastic. Well, let's see, the defendant, upon a neighbor hearing no, no, no and whimpering, goes to Walmart and buys a heavy-duty plastic tarp and duct tape, members of the jury. Brian Joe hears that heavy tarp being drugged. Brian Joe sees that the light that they installed after Ian, which is one of those hanging lights, industrial construction lights, is off, which is weird because Brian's one of the ones that actually fixes those for the community. Nobody else really should be touching those lights, and it was working before. Guess what? It goes back on. And guess what's found on that light? The defendant's fingerprints. He sees the defendant when the light goes back on, coming up the stairs. Same outfit as the person that was dragging the heavy object in a tarp. Again, nobody's here from Barry. No one has seen Barry. There's only 3 males in the complex at the time. 2 of them, Chris and Brian. Barry hasn't been seen or heard from since the 19th. You're going to hear about, or you heard about, black and yellow boxes that Brian Job sees Chris carrying, which are consistent with the black and yellow boxes that Roxanne Hernandez finds at the Airbnb. You're going to see the same clothes as when the defendant goes to Daybreak, when he goes to Walmart in Lee County, in Cape Coral. Brian Job also identified at the Daybreak gas station, that being Chris, and that being the victim's vehicle. Same clothes as he saw the person who was dragging the heavy object, as well as carrying the tarps. As well as carrying the boxes. Then we go to Walmart, here in Lee County, where the ATM this time works, and we know it works because we see him pull out something. We also know it works because it goes to the Capital One credit card. We see that he pulled money out of that ATM. Not money, that was his, no, that was Barry's money. Because he had Barry's Capital One card. We also see that while he's there, he buys air freshener. And the air freshener is a spray cleaner too. That's found in the Jeep. Now we go to the Airbnb in Clewiston, and we see and hear that when the owner of it went in, it was full of sand and debris. She likened it to a kid playing in the beach with a sand pill and dumping half of the sand in the shower and half of the sand in the tub, and debris that is very consistent with the items and the wood in the rural area that's out there, the raw Florida, because that's what Ventura is. It's a raw Floridian area, untouched, acre and a half lots as far as the eye can see. She sees furniture moved, and she knows that it wasn't there before all this debris because her and her mom cleaned the house themselves. They've been doing this for 11 years. And during this 11-year period, she's never had someone talk this much to her. Usually it's like, hey, I have a problem, or hey, can I have the Wi-Fi password? Nope, we got back and forth conversation of a play-by-play of what he is doing when it's convenient. And who is he? Well, supposedly it's Tyler Gamble, but the defense attorney submitted during cross-examination that it was Christopher using Tyler's account. But we also know it was Christopher because she saw Christopher running after he told her, hey, I'm gonna go for a jog or a run, and then I'm going to check out. She doesn't see Tyler Gamble running, who has a profile picture. She sees the defendant, and she identified the defendant in the courtroom when she testified. That is the person that was at the Airbnb. She lives across the street. We also know that he had Tyler's information, which again, the defense said he did. He used the account. We know it because it's actually saved on the phone, the password as well as the user ID. But members of the jury, we also hear that between 3 and 4 p.m. on the 21st, she sees something unusual, which is clothes being hung outside on the banisters for somebody that's staying there for a night. After the defendant went radio silent for 3 hours. No calls out, no calls in taken, No text messages out, no text in, no data usage during those 3 hours. 3 hours where he starts at the Airbnb and picks up 5 miles down the road, 6 miles down the road, which is a 5 to 10 minute drive depending. What's interesting is he has this back and forth with Roxana Hernandez. And he says things like, "Hi, I'm visiting my family and just looking for a nice relaxing place to stay while I travel. It will be just me." Then he says, "Okay." Look how he says okay. Okay. "Awesome. Thank you so much. I will go ahead and head over soon. Good morning. Thank you so much for the great stay. I just want you to know I am going to get some breakfast and come back and go for a run before going home. The forests are so beautiful and the countryside is so relaxing. I will be checked out by 10 or 10:30. Thank you again." Thank you. Let's see. He then says, "Thank you. I'm heading out to run now. Yay! I will message you when I leave, and your home is very beautiful, by the way. 5 stars from me. I'm leaving. Thanks again. I wanted a suite, but I could not find the broom. I had a great time. I'll be back to see my brother next month. Could I reserve this place for a week and bring him and his wife? They will love it." At what point during those text messages does he say, "Hey, I'm not Tyler Gamble. I'm Christopher Davis"? Nowhere. Instead, he continues with information that is misleading, using his brother's account, pretending he's his brother. Then we have a wonderful image of his face. What do we have him doing? Pulling more cash out. This time at Seacoast Bank in Clewiston. Using Barry's card once again. What does he do after he goes to Seacoast Bank? Well, he goes to Ace Hardware. And we see him in Ace Hardware, 10:37 in the morning, walk into the cash register with a pickaxe and a shovel. That was the jury. He lives in a 3rd-floor condo building. He's out in the middle of nowhere. Opposing counsel made an argument, something about a mud park. Guess what? That mud park's been closed since 2020. Maybe he wants to go mudding. Well, that Jeep didn't look like it'd been mudding. It'd been in the sand. White sand. What's interesting is, guess what he pays here? He pays in cash. Once again. And guess what he's wearing on his wrist? Barry's watch. You heard from the teller that was Christopher Davis. She even identified him in court. That was him. Then we move to Saturday, July 22nd, 2023, where Miguel contacts him and tells him to file a missing persons report. We find out that he gets rid of the shovel and tries to get rid of the pickaxe. Pickaxe that he's had for less than a day. What's interesting is he tries to get rid of the pickaxe at the same place that he bought the pickaxe, just in a different area. I wonder why. We also have the Airbnb back and forth notes. We have him calling the non-emergency Cape Coral number, talking to the person. You heard that call. You watch the body-worn cam with Officer Dan Lilly with what the defendant says, how the defendant is acting. As well as you hear from Becky Weber, who's the neighbor who happens to see the wallet and who the defendant tells I'm scared he's gonna break up with me and I'm gonna get kicked out. So after the conversation with Miguel, before he calls the non-emergency number, what does the defendant do? Oh, he goes to Ace to dispose of the axe and the shovel. And what does he drive to Ace? Oh, he drives Barry's Jeep. Barry's Jeep that was clean before he went to Montura, now has stuff all over it. And what's interesting is his location, when you look at states 40 and 40A, shows him in Cape Coral at 11:26 at his condo. And he's at Ace Hardware, I believe it's 12:30ish. He's got an hour, so he talks to Miguel, goes to Ace Hardware. We find out that he gets confronted. He takes a couple items with him, but he leaves the axe because he's trying to get out of there. That was collected by Cape Coral, an axe that is in front of you today, members of the jury. Heavy enough to break up hard ground, to help dig a hole. The defendant called the non-emergency number to do a missing persons report, and overshared during that non-emergency call by giving him a play-by-play of what's going on. Kind of his MO throughout any time he talks to somebody. 7/22/2023 at 17:19:35. He calls Cape Coral Police Department. Remember, you have to do the conversion when it comes to the cell phone records. You have to do -4 to make it into Eastern Standard Time. That is 1:19 p.m. Talks to Miguel about 11:30, disposes of whatever he can. At 12:30, calls Cape Coral. Yes, he does call law enforcement at LCSO. You'll see the Lee County Sheriff's Office number, but 20 minutes later is when he calls the Cape Coral number that he's been advised to call to do the missing persons report. That's still a half an hour after he drops off the pickaxe and shovel. Then we have Dan Lilly, whose body worn you got to watch. And remember, the defendant's so worried the entire time. Christopher says, basically, hey, this is my name, this is my date of birth. He gives the date of birth of 6/9/1989. The officer actually repeats it when he's calling into dispatch. Last name is Davis, Delta, Alpha, Victor, India, Sierra, white male, date of birth is 6/9/1989. The defendant is standing next to the officer when the officer does this. On the stand, Becky, one of the neighbors, said that the neighborhood would figure out who would take Bear to the airport. He would never take an Uber. It's like Melrose Place. They knew what was going on. They all cared about each other. Honestly, Melrose Place might have had more drama than the neighborhood did, but they were there for each other. The defendant says the airport, yes, every time he goes to the airport, he Ubers. Every single time. He never takes the car out of town because he leaves it here. Okay, and then we've got the officer and Chris having a conversation. And so I don't know what to do, but I want to go ahead and file the report because his friends are now saying that, like, I need to because he's not responding to them. And then the officer says, friends, the ones that he went to the Italian dinner, anything like that? Chris, no, not the Italian dinner. The Italian dinner, I turned on his fucking Apple Watch. Here, I'll show you. Officer says, would you have something that tracks him? Chris says, basically, he left the watch here because he knows I've trapped him in the past. He left the watch here because Barry's not with us anymore. Barry's dead. The watch that Chris is wearing over and over and over again in the videos as well as the photographs you've seen from the 19th until the 24th when it's collected. How long have y'all been together, Chris? Almost 4 months now. Cinco de Mayo? Let's see, June, July, August, September. That's not 4 months. What is it? 2 months. Would it be okay just to like wait a day or two and then actually just like do all this? Cause like I don't wanna file anything and then he shows up. If he's not here by Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll just call you guys back. Huh. He did tell the officers that Barry tried to come into the apartment and drop off packages. It wasn't Barry, it was Miguel and Tom. And what does the defendant do after this? Guess where he goes? He goes to Home Depot. Guess what he buys? A swing lock, like the kind that prevents somebody from coming into your hotel room, and a deadbolt lock to change out the locks of the condo. The defendant, I'm beginning to get in the middle stages of worried, and what if he's not here next week? Like, what if he's not here tomorrow? Well, the officer says then you can call us back and file a missing persons report. We went back and forth. And then Chris says, I mean, he took some clothes, obviously. Like, there's some clothes and stuff that's gone. Well, that's weird, because when you look at the apartment pictures, what do you see? You see Barry's medicine. You see Barry's watch. You see Barry's passport. You see Barry's toothbrush. A man that's so meticulous and clean forgets his toothbrush, forgets to bring his clothes, forgets to bring his identification, forgets to bring his wallet. Members of the jury, you get to use your common sense in this case, and it doesn't make sense. It's because the defendant killed him. And remember how I pointed out that he told the officer 6/9 of 1989? Guess what? His birth date is 6/8 of 1988. Another discrepancy. Now you hear from the friend, Becky Weber, who tells you she sees the victim's wallet. That wallet is found in a storm drain on the same street that Barry and Chris live on. A storm drain that's on their daily walks to Starbucks. A wallet that we know he had with him when he was at Cruisers because he pulled a credit card out of it to pay the bill. Credit card that is later found in Chris's wallet when the search warrant is done on the 24th. He tells Becky, I'm worried about him breaking up with me and kicking me out because I'm unemployed. What am I going to do? Becky flat out told him. Barry's not like that. You know that. Because that's the kind of person Barry was. Kind, friendly, willing to help out his friends, willing to help out his family. Heck, he employed one of his family members. He's had the same friends for years, one since grade school. Then we move to Sunday the 23rd, where we hear that the defendant goes to Home Depot and buys a Sentry safe, the swing bar lock, and a deadbolt lock. Well, the Sentry safe, we find out, he does searches for. He tries to figure out how to break a code. He tries to search for the exact same safe that the victim has in his apartment. The exact same safe that has fingerprints all over it because the defendant tried to get in and couldn't. He buys that deadbolt lock because he knows Barry's not around, but somebody else is poking around to make sure they stay out. We see again, he uses Barry's credit card. He uses Barry's credit card to buy the fire safe, buy the door guard, and buy the lock. Again, Barry's nowhere around. Why would you need a safe? Why would you need to change the locks? We have his search history, his phone calls, and there we have him, walking out, so worried. Then we find out from the Starbucks employee when he buys other Starbucks with Barry's credit card that he's now changed and said Barry's been missing for a day or two. This is a hate crime. He goes to Anna Teresa's Aesthetics, gets filler done. So worried that he has to get his filler done because his boyfriend's missing. He talks to law enforcement. They do search warrants of his house, of the car, of the wallet, of the phone. He heard from his friend as well as his cousin. This is not Barry. Barry would always respond. And they haven't heard from him in almost 2 years. So what did Cindy Thomas tell us? Well, initially, he said he was working. Remember on the 21st? Or sorry, excuse me, 20th. Now he's changed and he went to a friend's house, he took an Uber, he didn't come back the next day. This is a hate crime. He's gone for 1.5 to 2 days. Members of the jury, he's been missing since Wednesday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. But it's okay because the defendant was so drunk he went to sleep, and when he woke up at 4 a.m., Barry was gone. Well, what does the defendant do? He also goes to Pretty Nails. We know he got a pedicure because when he went and got filler, he was telling Laura Standiford about his pedicure. Pretty Nails, he does searches on his cell phone for it, then he uses the card again. He does searches on his cell phone again for Anna Teresa Cosmetics. We see that when he goes to Anna Teresa's Cosmetics, he uses Barry's Amex card. $1,454. When was the last time that credit card was used? At Cruisers, when Barry paid the bill. We know that he has the card because that card is found in the defendant's wallet. We also know that it was in the pink trash can, the giveaway bag. The pink trash can that also included extra parts of duct tape, a cover for a hand cart, which is very consistent with the duct tape he bought at Walmart and the hand cart that he bought at Lowe's, as well as a cell phone case that's identified as Barry's cell phone case in the trash without the phone. Now, something interesting that Laura Standiford said was he was excited, he was giddy. He had made an appointment back in May. She also said he didn't have to put a card down, there was no deposit, nothing. He called the morning of on the 24th to make his appointment. His boyfriend is missing. His boyfriend hasn't been heard from multiple people, and he's so worried that he goes gets his face injected. And he throws the bag away in the same place that he's thrown duct tape, cover of a hand tart, and Barry's cell phone cover. Now, members of the jury, on the 19th, you see the wallet at Walmart, and then on the 24th, when they do the warrant, and they search it, well, it looks a little bit more full of credit cards, doesn't it? What's interesting is this particular card. That's the American Express. The American Express that was used to pay for Botox, excuse me, not Botox, filler, as well as at Cruisers. Not there. It's not there because he took it from Barry after he killed him. And what do we find in Chris's wallet? Credit card after credit card with Barry's name on it. None of them belong to Chris. They're all Barry's. Now, he tells law enforcement that when he got back from the bar, he went to sleep. And when he woke up, Barry was gone. But what's interesting is we see him at Walmart, and then we see him doing a cell phone. And he does a text message back and forth with someone who says, send me a pic. So what does Chris do at 10:50 at night? He sends a picture of himself. He's asleep because he's so drunk. He searches for every place he goes. Walmart, Ace, Lowe's, Publix, Anna Teresa's Cosmetic, Screen repair. He was searching as he went because he's killed Barry and he's trying to figure out what to do next. The entire time, as you heard from Jackie Fordham on the stand, he's talking to other men. He is messaging people. He's so worried, but he's not acting like that in public. And then when the officers ask him about the scratches on his body, he says, oh, it's because I was trying to harness my cat. Well, did they find a harness? Nope. Did they find a leash? Nope. They even checked the trash. And the trash is interesting because they're the only pink trash bags. No harness there either. But what those scratches are consistent with is being out in a wooded area, walking through briars, walking through brush, walking through true old Florida. Then you hear about the finding of Barry's wallet. And we also heard from Jennifer Monaco, who was one of Barry's close friends, who had a weekly appointment to speak with Barry. Though she talked to him more than just that, but it's something they never missed. She hasn't talked to him since July 19th, 2023. And where do we find the wallet? Well, Matt Short saw something reflecting in a storm drain. Him and the other technician pulled up the storm drain and found the wallet, Barry's wallet, a wallet that Becky Weber saw a few days before inside the condo. Then we go to July 31st, and we hear information such as they had two different cadaver dogs come out to Cape Coral, and they took 3 employees' cars. They didn't show the cadaver dogs what car they were supposed to alert to. The cadaver dogs didn't watch each other. It was blind. And what did both of those dogs do? They did alerts and responses to the Jeep. The Jeep had human remains in it, and they were Barry's human remains when he was transported from Cape Coral to Clewiston. Now, opposing counsel has said multiple times that Barry was talking to other men. There was an open relationship, that Barry was on Tinder, on Sniffies. Well, what's interesting is when Sean Rippendorf took the stand, I asked him, was Barry on Grindr after the Cinco de Mayo party? No. And what did Chris do? He had to message Sean to get Barry's phone number to be able to call Barry. He did the searches for broken screens. Never found any broken screens. What they did find was an empty cell phone case. The defendant, though, had hookups, Tinders, porn websites, him chatting with different men, though, on the 19th and since the 19th. This was Barry's first known relationship and his last. Whether this was open or not, the defendant is the last person who saw Barry alive on July 19th, 2023. Barry Schmalbach. We heard from the neighbor that there was slamming, being tossed around, no, 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 whimpering. She got the chills. She thought she heard a last breath. Members of the jury, the state would submit to you the defendant is guilty in all charges. Paid for cash for the tarp, the duct tape, paid for cash for the dolly, paid for cash for the pickaxe and shovel. We'd ask you to come back with the only just verdict in this case, the verdict of guilty in all charges. Thank you.